Órale, Cholo Trucker Más Movies and Shows, and here we got episode number 7 of Monsters, the Lau and Eric Menendez story. Now, this episode was probably the most confusing um in the series yet, right? Um, good gosh, man. Um, This episode here, episode number 7, and after episode number 6, I was like, okay, let's see what they do now. And I knew at some point they were gonna have to go into the courtroom. So I was like, all right, I'm not that interested anymore in seeing the courtroom. But all right, that's the way we're going, right? Now it got a little bit odd and uncomfortable. But at the same time, at the end of the episode, I was like, no, you know what? It actually kind of makes sense. Simply because they are now painting Eric and Lyle, mainly Lyle, not so much Eric, but mainly Lyle, as a bad guy, yet it yet he actually did suffer the abuse, right? And like I said, both things can be true at once. I've been saying that. I don't know how many times I've said it covering this show, but it always seems like whatever movie or show or whatever it may be, it kind of sides with one or the other. They're either bad guys or they're either, victims. And this one's doing a just great job in painting the picture that look, they can be both, right? Um, it was interesting to see Lyle trying to convince people to lie on his behalf to help his case. He is now looking at, look, let's go ahead and let's really build this up and blow it up, right? Let's really try to get ourselves out of here. The remorse factor isn't really there too much. He's just trying to get out of it. It's like, okay, I got it. I understand the system. You want them to feel sorry for us. Okay, cool. I can do that. I can cry. At the same time, you got this other guy. Shoot, I forgot his name. Sorry about that. I'll probably get his name for the next for episode 8. But it was highly surrounded around him. I'm not really sure what his involvement is. He doesn't seem to be involved in this case at all. I guess he's a lawyer, but he's just kind of sitting in just because I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. Now, this isn't the first time you see him on the show, but his the episode starts back in 1983. His daughter, who I guess was in the movie The Poltergeist, which that reveals itself in episode 7 here. Um, his daughter was killed. She was murdered, and the guy that did it strangled her, and he got away with manslaughter. And they showed a little bit of his trial, which is a little similar to what's going on here. He's talking about his dad abusing him and beating the crap out of him and his mom, and and he got off. I think they said he only got 3.5 years. So I'm not too familiar with his case or with that case outside of what they showed here on episode 7. But that should be interesting to actually look into. So he really has a tough time believing the brothers. He thinks it's a load of crock. He's having dinner, sitting around this big table, which still got a little confusing because he's having this long conversation, this dinner, and at the end it's just him by himself. So it's like, were you talking to yourself the whole time? No, actually, I think he was talking to everybody, and everybody took off, and he just decided to sit there. The scene where he's sitting there by himself, and the helper that he has, because it's all richy rich people, right? So the helper that he has, who looks like a bellboy from some hotel, I that scene was a little bit weird, a little bit odd. It's like, hey, come sit down. It's like, yeah, all right, cool. It's like, I got this cake, and if you want it, well, I got a photo shoot. Well, sure, why not? I guess, I'll work it off in the morning. When just the way he carries himself, the bellboy helper looking dude, I don't know, man. He just looked strange. He looks back to make sure there's nobody there, and then he looks back at him and says, I could stay if you'd like me to. And it's like, it's a little bit weird. It's like, okay, is there something going on here between you guys? I'm just saying, it kind of felt a little bit like that, I guess. But yeah, he's an elderly gentleman. His daughter passed away. Again, I'll do a little bit more research on him for the next one if he's heavily involved in episode 8. But in this one, he really truly was. It was most of the episode was about him and his thoughts and his beliefs on what happened that night with the Menendez brothers and just the whole story behind it. It was interesting. He's definitely a scarred man, losing a child, and he just wasn't buying the story. And people would be telling him like, "Hey, what if they were?" And he's like, "No, they weren't." And yeah, he came up with this other story that maybe Kitty walked in on Lyle and Eric, um, having a relationship with each other. That maybe it was Lyle and Eric that had a relationship with each other the entire time, and they ended up killing Jose and Kitty for one because they didn't want Kitty to tell Jose, because of reputations, and how could we let Dad find this out? So they go ahead and whack both of them, which seems a little bit weird, but nonetheless, um, it was it was a tough episode to watch, not in the sense because it was too graphic or brutal or anything of that sort, just in the sense because you couldn't really feel for anybody. I felt disengaged with with anybody on there, right? I felt bad for the guy who lost his daughter. I felt bad for him. But then I had to understand, but I had to understand like, okay, this guy lost his daughter, and the guy that killed his daughter got off in a similar way, which the Menendez boys are going down. Like, hey, we're sexually abused. So I kind of gotta understand with him. Yet there's no wiggle room with him. He's like, nope, nope, nope. I don't believe it at all. And then you got Lyle. Eric didn't really do too much in this episode. Then you got Lyle, who is over here saying like, yeah, we did really get abused, but at the same time, he wants to throw too much salsa in it, and he's just acting like a jackass about it. He's trying to convince people. Even after he's up there and crying, he's all like, "Yeah, see, told you, man, told you I could sell it to the jury." It's just like it's hard to root for the guy now. So there was really nobody to root for in this episode, which was a good thing because, like I said from the jump, both things can be true. He could be a complete jackass. Okay, he could be a complete. I'm not saying he's a good human being. He can be a complete douchebag, and at the same time, really had been sexually molested, like he said he was. Okay, both things can be true. And so this episode really tears you apart. It's like, okay, I was kind of leaning this way, then I'm kind of leaning this way. Now I don't know which way to go. Right. It's like there's nobody to root for here. So anyway, oh, and by the way, the interesting thing is something that really actually happened was his girlfriend. Well, a lot of chicks, those scarred chicks. that want to start dating dudes. They want to start dating murderers that are in prison and stuff like that. So he does have some chick, and for one reason or another, she recorded their conversations. So that's what episode 7 started to show, and I will see you guys on episode 8. That is Monsters, the Eric and Lau Menendez story, episode 7. See you guys on episode 8. Total Trucker, Moss Movies and Shows. Catch you guys then.